everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at this album. It is Pink Floyd's debut album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. So this review was requested by a user called Aaron Anderson, so thank you very much for requesting this video. So yes, as I said, this was their debut album released on the 4th of August in 1967. Pink Floyd had formed in the early 60s when Roger Waters, Nick Mason, Richard Wright and Syd Barrett met at university. Like I believe like they were all like studying like architecture, like or like something like that. And they basically just like formed a band and they wanted to make like some quite like interesting and quite sort of far out music. They were signed to EMI Records in February 1967, and a few singles were released in the UK before the album came out, such as Arnold Lane and See Emily Play, both of which were actually quite successful singles for them. However, for the album, the band wished to pursue like a kind of different direction, creating more sort of drug-like influenced music, like LSD like influenced music, like rather than like kind of like sort of like psychedelic tinged like pop singles. Like they wanted to sort of like do like slightly longer form like sort of jam pieces, like as well as like these more like sort of whimsical songs. So it was recorded at London's Abbey Road Studios with former Beatles engineer Norman Smith like at like the producer's desk. Like he tried to like encourage the band to make like more like commercial songs to kind of have like an album full of like See Emily Plays and like Arnold Lane, like those kind of songs. And like he like I didn't want like the band to do like these kind of longer jams. Like in the end, like they did meet like in like the middle, like the album kind of being like a mix of like both sort of styles. So commercially, it done quite well. It reached number 6 on the UK charts, but only got to number 131, like in like America. Like since its release, it has been hailed as a seminal psychedelic rock album. So I will just now show you my vinyl copy of it here. This one is nothing too special. It is a bootleg version, like I'm afraid. Like I didn't get like the reissue like when it came out. Like, I got this one like before, like it was like reissued like a couple like of like years ago. So it is a like unofficial one here, and like originals are very expensive. So quite basic packaging, but this one is on a sort of purple kind of vinyl, so like yeah, definitely like unofficial one here, like, but it sounds alright, but like it would be nice to get like a official copy of this though. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album's songs in detail. I'll score each track out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. Floating down, the sound resounds around the icy wall. So the opening track is called Astroma Domain, which is a kind of slower sort of tension building number, which I think works very well like as like an album opening one here. The vocals are done on this one by Syd Barrett and Richard Wright, and like lyrics kind of are quite sort of spacey, like themed like lyrics. Like it really has a kind of like it really has like sort of like otherworldly nature to like the music, like and like the guitar playing. So yeah, very unique song there, like very good song like as well to kick off the album. That gets something I can't explain. And then we get a kind of really sort of fun track following up with that, Lucifer Sam, which has a really nice vibe to it. Like it's got like this kind of descending like guitar like intro, which has this kind of sort of James Bondy sort of Batman kind of sort of feel to it, like that sort of like action movie, that sort of thing. Like it's a pretty fun song really, and like lyrically like it is like quite childlike. It's about like Syd Barrett's cat, like I believe, but like, yeah, like a really good song there. The Lucifer Sam would get a 9 out of 10. Why'd you have to leave me there, hanging in my infant air, waiting? Next one is also really great. It's called Matilda Mother, which just could be my favourite song like on like the record here. It's a much more sort of softer song, like with a really nice sort of like mellotron bed and like some really great like bass playing like from like Roger Waters, like very melodic like bass part like to this track. It is one of Barrett's many songs like about like childhood and like nostalgia, and like I must say like this song to my ears anyway really hasn't dated like all like that much. Like there's bands like around like such as like there's a group band called Temples that could do like this kind of sort of psychedelic like tinged rock like from like a few years ago, like this sounds like one of like their songs. So like yeah, it really hasn't like dated like all dated like at all really. Matilda Mother, what we're getting 9 out of 10 from me. No fear.
You can't hear me, but I can.
Okay, so the next one is another kind of childhood song. It's called Flaming, which would get an 8 out of 10 from me. Yeah, like quite sort of childhood like themes, like sort of like fantasy, like imagery, like to it as well. It's got kind of like a whimsical like melody. For me, though, the song is kind of let down by like the middle part, like where we've got this kind of quite annoying like clicking noise, like on it, like which kind of like which kind of goes on like towards the end, like off like the song. This was also like notably issued as a US single, like but probably like unsurprisingly like failed to chart. And then this is where the record kind of starts to get quite weird. Like the first, like them first 4 songs are all relatively normal, like psychedelic pop, whereas the next song, Power R Talk H, is one of the more far out pieces like on the album. It's co-written by all 4 members like off like the band, and it has these kind of really sort of strange like effects in it. Like supposedly this was they made this track like after seeing the Beatles recording Lovely Rita, which at that song, like towards the end, it has like all like these like sort of like weird like vocal sound effects in it. So apparently Pink Floyd like were like influenced by that like they would try it like themselves. And I mean the bulk of this song like is a kind of like laid back like jazzy piano like with like these sort of heavy like tribal style drums. I mean it is certainly a unique song. It's just it isn't one which I would ever really go to like in isolation like off the album, like unfortunately. So Power R Talk H would get a 5 out of 10 from me. And then closing off side 1, we get another weird one called Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk, which is a sole Roger Waters song like on the record, and this is my least favourite like on the album as well. It's quite a messy song. Like it does have some quite angsty guitar playing like on it, and like some very like erratic keyboard playing. I mean it's mostly like instrumental, this song here, bit like the last one, and like yeah, it just isn't very memorable. Like isn't very good like this track. Like I don't think. And then opening up side 2, we get Interstellar Overdrive, which is another song which was co-written like by all of the band members. And I must say this song starts off amazingly. We've got this very what's now like quite like a iconic like guitar riff like what opens the song. Unfortunately, beyond that, it really isn't very well developed. It just goes into like this improvised noodling for about 10 minutes. Producer Norman Smith apparently wanted this song cut down for the record, and I must say I do have to agree with him, because kind of like that introduction riff could have formed the basis off a incredible song. Unfortunately, as it is, it's a slightly spaced out sort of experimental piece, so no real form or structure. Just doesn't really do much for me. This song as a whole. And then we're thrusted into quite another sort of whimsical, sort of psychedelic pop song called the Gnome, which is quite a acoustic based song here. It is quite forgettable, this track here, this track, but it does have quite a nice vocal effects, the sort of the echo on Syd Barrett's voice. It's pretty good and quite forward thinking. So yeah, the Gnome, pretty good song there, I think.
Change, return, success. Going.
Next one is called Chapter 24, which is a more sort of mysterious and slower number. There's almost no drums on this song at all. Lyrically, it's inspired by a ancient Chinese text called I Ching, and Barrett's vocal on this is also pretty good. So yeah, pretty good song there. Again, just not one of the standouts on the album. The next one is called The Scarecrow, which has this kind of sort of horseshoe, kind of clapping rhythm to it, which is quite unique, to it. Lyrically, Barrett's comparing his fate to that of a scarecrow, so what stands in kind of the same place all day, doesn't really do much, doesn't really move. I mean, the arrangement on this song develops quite nicely. I do quite like the way the song builds, but it is very, very short. It's kind of it is almost one of the songs which you kind of like want to hear like a little bit more of actually. But like, yeah, the Scarecrow, not a bad track there. We get a 7 out of 10. And then we close the album with one of my personal favourites. It's the song Bike, which is a very catchy song. It's very sort of whimsical, like about kind of Barrett trying to sort of like impress a girl like with like his bike. It's like, I've got a bike, you can ride it if you like. It's got a basket, a bell, and things to make it look good. And then like it kind of like it goes on like a bit like that, like getting like slightly sort of weirder like as like it goes on. The record then kind of ends like with this sort of sound collage like of random sounds like, such as clocks and like violins. I mean, like it just like it ends like the album quite weirdly, which is kind of like fitting because it is a strange, slightly like oddball album. This. Okay, so overall this album would score 70%. So I would say it has really grown on me like since I first like heard this. Like, I mean, because when I like first bought this, like I maybe like only really liked one or two songs, probably I think like Lucifer Sam and Bike. Like however, like some of like the slightly sort of deeper cuts like audio such as Matilda Mother, Flaming, and the Scarecrow, they really have like sort of like grown on me. Like, and like I do like really like appreciate like Sid Barrett's songwriting like a lot more. However, I would say Pink Floyd done a lot better things like in like the years to come, like after this, like albums like Medal and Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, like they really, for me, like anyway, they can't really compare to this album. Also, it was kind of very different from most other music like off like the time, and like it would kind of like a lot of bands like in like subsequent months and like years, I would have tried to sort of copy like this sort of Pink Floyd sound. It is also like a shame like the band were like unable to kind of carry on like on like this kind of like route here, like because Sid Barrett like was forced to leave the group in 1968, like after like he'd well basically had taken too many drugs. Like his like mind was kind of like all like mucked up really, so like he wasn't fit to be like in like Pink Floyd, so like they replaced him like with like David Gilmour, and like they very much spent like quite a few years like really trying to find like their sound like again, like with albums such as like Gumma and Atom Heart Mother. Like it wasn't like until Medal like where like they really like found like their direction like without like Sid Barrett. But yes, I hope you have enjoyed this review of Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.